Hello again, everybody. Yes, I am. We are triple stacking this shit. Or maybe I just happened to be wearing the same clothes I had the last couple of videos. Who knows? My name is Jay. This is Clandestine Carry Concepts. I'm dropping the name more and more because, like I said, this channel was originally created for a business that I'm in the process of making. That I will explain in more detail when we start having some products out there, but I've already kind of alluded to what they are in the first video. So if you want to know about some of these products that I'm going to be putting out or what the theme is for it, check out that first video. And if you don't want to, that's okay too. But you're going to miss part 3. You're not going to understand as much of the context, which ties back to the second video. So if you don't know what I'm talking about at all so far, fuck you, watch the first 2 videos. All right, no, you don't have to. It's all right. This is part 3. This is having a representative for building your community. So, to recap, because we're 3 videos in now, I was watching Gruntproof do his live streams with a couple of other YouTubers, Pacific Northwest Gorilla and Modern Frontiersman, and they were talking about building a community, how to do it, and all the nitty gritty on how to do that shit. Well, one thing came to mind really quickly for me, right? What I've talked about in some other videos is that I run a nonprofit, and I'm basically the figurehead for it. I am the guy who goes and interacts with veterans. I'm the guys who signs them up. And I'm the guys they see whenever we do our monthly community events. So, one may say I'm the face of my organization, right? So, who else would be best to talk about my organization? So we got to kind of think about that when in terms of our community. So let's say you follow the advice of the first 2 videos and you now have a community. And now you have a decent way to bring people into your community. One of these people is going to show a natural knack. All right. And I'd say after about 12 people, one of these guys or girls, if you're all inclusive, which you should be, let's just say that there are feminine skills that need to be in a community group as well. And I say feminine because traditionally they were female associated. That does not mean that there doesn't have to be a male who knows that skills. But, it's like, dude, do you really want a sausage fest? Just saying, I was in the Navy after all, where a lot of us spend a lot of guys on a ship with 1 girl or 2 girls or maybe 30 girls now. I don't know. I was in blue side. Anyway, sorry, sidetrack. After you get people in, you're going to notice that someone has a capability. Someone just got that silver fucking tongue, man. They just know what to say, or they just have a good intuition on the people that they've been bringing in or the people that they want to bring in. Make that motherfucker a figurehead, right? So I talked about this in the second video. Your core community members, the people who basically started it, should never be gatekeeping. I have to reiterate every fucking time. It should work like a republic, like our government actually should. There should be representation without taxation. No, there should be representation of all of the different, mentalities that go through with the group for the singular goal of the community. It's always it. You're doing things for the community that you guys live in, that you guys participate in. So wouldn't it benefit the community to have someone who can just kind of go out and network? Because it's not hard to do. It's not easy to do well. There's always a fucking paradox things. Everyone's going to have jobs. Everyone's going to have eventually a tapped network. They've talked to all their family and friends. They've talked to all their coworkers, all their schoolmates. And it's just like, hey, man, no one wants to hear it anymore. I don't know. Maybe I've said the wrong things. Maybe no one's fucking interested because I live in goddamn Illinois. It's liberal shit. I don't fucking know. All right. Well, that happens. What you need is a representative, a specialist, a communicative leader. So when you find this person, and again, I'd say around 12. You get around 12 people, which is actually kind of big for a community, right? 11 people that you fucking trust and yourself. I think that's actually a decent sized community. If each person has a different skill, 12 different fucking skills, medical, shooting, automotive, farming, homesteading, manufacturing, gardening. I know I'm trying to put a comprehensive list for you guys. I think 7, those skills are good, and then just add 3 more. 4 more. Math's hard. If you have that many people, I think you're on the right track. I think 12 should be what people should shoot for. And then when you exceed that, then you can cover some redundancy. You can make sure you got 2 guys in medical, 2 guys who know how to shoot well, 2 guys who know how to plan, things like that. But you should also have someone be a number 1 communications effort. Here's the reason for that. I can't remember which video Grunt Proof was talking about this. And yes, I know I'm just shamelessly stealing all the shit from Grunt Proof. So he's got good stuff. So maybe you should go fucking watch it, right? You know, there's a reason I take it because it's good. Go watch it. And also watch Pacific Northwest Guerrilla and Modern Frontiersman. If shit hits the fan and it's game over, man. Who do you think is going to be rebuilding? It's going to be those local communities, those small little communities of people, those pockets of civilization, right? Well, when these communities start being built up, you're going to need a liaison. You're going to need someone who can go back and forth to all these communities. Now, I think about my role with my nonprofit, and just bear with me here. I've got a story that I'm getting into that's going to make some sense. My nonprofit has 11 different park districts that we're partnered with out of about 18 overall villages and neighborhoods that reside in my county. So 11 out of 18. The 7 that's not unfortunately partnered with us, but are still within our borders. But those other 11, I'm pretty tight with. I know board members, I know park district leaders, I know even a couple of mayors actually. So I'm not saying I'm friendly buddies with them, but I know them. So I look at it this way, right? If civilization falters and we all still live within a pretty close region to each other because we're in a county, wouldn't it be more easy for someone who everyone kind of has a mutual knowledge of walking around to all these locations and be like, hey, so I know you guys have a bunch of chickens here and we have a bunch of cows, so how about we work on doing a trade? That's going to be such an easier thing to do when they recognize my face and they know what I've been doing for the communities, right? Not just my community, but communities around me, because that's how my nonprofit operates. Having a representative in your group now is going to pay those dividends when that stuff happens, when civilization collapses. Someone who can basically be a brochure, a little trifold brochure of your community, what it has to offer, what the perks are, what the cons are, all that stuff. And don't get it twisted, there are fucking cons to these communities. You may not want to hear that shit, but there's going to be some negative associations, and that's just par for the course. Even before we get to a post-apocalypse, I say apocalypse instead of apocalypse sometimes. When we get to a post-apocalyptic society, because you're aligned with this group, you're going to get fucked on by this group. That's how it works. Civilization has acted like that for millions of years. It's not going to fucking change after that. That's a conversation you're all going to have when the bombs fall. But the point is, you got to go over all these things, and you got to have someone who's capable of doing it. So now that I've kind of established the importance of it, I'm going to go over what I've been doing as a leader of a nonprofit and kind of what I go through, right? So I'm taking the skills that I have, and you can watch the first video where I go into a little bit more detail about my skill set and my background, so you can understand that, yeah, I have a skill in this. Maybe not the best, but I have a skill in it. Here's what this representative should do in order to best highlight what you have in the shortest amount of time possible. So here we go. First off, initial meet. First contact, right? Let's imagine, whether this is post-apocalypse or not, this is the first meeting you're having with someone who you know can be a beneficial resource. All right? So maybe it's a manufacturing plant. Maybe it's a guy who runs a union for electricians and shit. Doesn't matter. Someone who can get you other things. And as fucked up as it sounds, that's how you need to think all the time. What can you do for me? The turnaround is you need to be able to offer something to them. That's how community works. It's mutual skills built together, working together. So we have to look at ourselves as... Actually, not ourselves. We have to look at people as if they're products. Okay? And I know that sounds shitty. I get it. It kind of is. But there's payoff, there's dividends, and there's something we offer in exchange. You know what I mean? So you find a resource or someone that could lead to more resources. Tell them who you are. You tell them what you have. My name is Jay. I run this nonprofit. This nonprofit is for veterans. These are the three core principles of our nonprofit. This is what you can expect when you participate. What would you like? Would you like to join? Would you not? What are your questions that you have about the organization? That's basically how my conversations go. Now, since I'm also a veteran, they'll see the hat or they'll see me wearing something Navy representative and they'll be like, oh, so you're in the military too. And next thing you know, we're trading stories about our time in service because my nonprofit only services veterans. So use that to your advantage, right? You don't need to be post-service. You don't need to have been in the military. Maybe because you're a representative and you've been keeping tabs on all the communities around you before the bombs fell, you know that the mayor of your most adjacent neighborhood is a huge golf guy. And you just happen to be wearing a golf polo. And she's like, do you play golf? Yeah, I actually do play golf. Okay. So now we're building rapport. All right. You can build rapport before you go into your spiel, as I'll say, or you can do it after. I find most times, because military members are all about what we call the pertinence. It's a medical field thing, and it's a military thing. The pertinence. Who are you? What do you want? Why do you want it? That's basically it. That's all you need to think about all the time. So you convey that. After that, it's up to them. The first initial meeting is the most important fucking meeting. So you got to be on your A game. Rehearse a speech. It doesn't fucking matter. I had to give a speech for a check that we were getting with the Knights of Columbus, and I fucking rehearsed that speech like 3-4 times. And I used to be a live musician. I used to fucking perform in front of thousands of people, and I still fucking rehearse my speech. It's okay. These are important things. You're trying to get a resource or a network of resources. If you fucking fall flat on your face, that's shit you don't have for your community, right? Another reason why you should have a representative, because now you're not straining the group. You're not trying to force people to always be on their best behavior in the sense of, hey man, you got to represent us at all times. Well, I'm sorry to say, I was part of the U.S. military. You don't always have a positive representation of yourselves. That's why we have fucking generals who fucking go to Congress and present all of our ideas. That's why we have fucking war correspondents who come and fucking interview our goddamn media departments. All right? There's a reason these things happen. When you acknowledge them and you find the role and the purpose useful, you benefit from it. So, your representative is going to talk about the pertinence. They're going to try and build a rapport because they're going to be knowledgeable about the area. All right. Part of the responsibility of a representative is they need to kind of know what's going on. All right. They don't need to be the most social butterfly, and they don't need to be the town gossip. But if you're going to find someone who's going to be shouldering up that responsibility of a community leader, that's what we'll call, they need to be able to talk and they need to be able to listen just as well as they can talk. Not everyone has that capability. And I'll freely admit, that's something I struggle with. I can talk for hours. I can't always listen. And that's not just because I have tinnitus in my ear. It's just because how my brain works sometimes, I'm always filtering out. Like, I want the pertinence and I want what's relevant. So even after being out of the military for 8 years and out of the medical field for 3 years, it's just been reinforced over the last 20 years that, like, hey, just give me the most important shit possible. And you shouldn't do that. Because you never know when a little nugget of information could be beneficial. Because maybe you hear how a good way to reach out to the other community leader in the neighboring village across from you guys. You know, maybe you find out that he's got a water problem and you guys have a bunch of water. Or you have a plumbing guy who can fix their fucking piping. But because you are more worried about what this group that you're talking to currently can do for you, you get lost in the weeds and you miss an opportunity. I can't tell you how to get better at that because that's something I'm struggling to get better with myself. The way I look at it is when you're building rapport, I file all that information as potential. Literally, just potential. You know, I hear a story about a vet who, when he was in Vietnam, he was with this group and he was here at this time. And I just am like, okay. And then a couple of months later, I signed up another Vietnam era veteran. And he was telling me that he was also dust off and he was with this unit. I was like, I actually signed a veteran who worked dust off and he did this. He's like, really? What's his name? Blah, blah. He's like, no fucking way. Turns out they were in a platoon, or whatever the Army's equivalent is. I don't fucking know. I'm Navy. And the guy the guy who I just signed up had left right as that other guy had came in. So there was like a day, 2 days where they were trading and everything, and they haven't networked together yet. They've not both been at the same event together, but I thought it was really funny. And if I remember correctly, I did share their information. So I was like, hey, if you do want to get in contact, but that's what I'm talking about, right? While I was building a rapport while signing one veteran, I had that information stored in my brain as a potential. So another veteran who had a similar background in a same area doing the same job was like, holy shit, I just helped these guys get in contact with each other, people who served together. Now, like I said, they were transitioning out, but who knows? Maybe that could have been a guy's long lost best fucking friend. And I would have dismissed that shit just because I'm focused on getting them to sign up on my fucking membership so our nonprofit continues getting the same funding. That's my goal. That's what I do with my nonprofit. The more veterans I sign up, the increase I have to our budget. So that's my number one goal. How I get to that goal, obviously, is for veterans. And I'll sometimes even say, if you sign up with this organization, even if you don't feel like you really need some of the benefits, you're helping secure more funding for our brothers and sisters. And I've had to say that a couple of times too, because you can only twist so many arms, right? So honesty is another aspect to tap into when you're being this community leader. After you're storing all this information while building a rapport as potential, don't filter it out completely. Don't throw all that shit away. Start talking with them and be honest about your assessment. Sometimes this has happened to me in work related events, not with my nonprofit, just in other jobs. Sometimes I've been talking and I'm just like, hey man, you know what? I'm just getting a vibe that like you're not really getting what I'm saying. You're not gelling with what I'm saying. And that can be so refreshing when everyone could just be sitting there in this awkwardness where one party already knows like, hey, they're not going to fucking go for it. And the other party is just trying to fucking blow so much smoke up the ass. They fucking are getting lost in. That can be a benefit. Having an honest assessment of the situation could prevent a situation from worsening at the least. At the best, it could potentially change something around. It's like, yeah, you know what? You were talking about this thing and we don't fucking agree with that. That's not a community we want to associate ourselves with. Oh, okay. Well, actually, I kind of misrepresented that. When I say that we do this is more in a defensive role because we try to expand our search area so that way we can prevent a fight from happening directly at our borders. So we're not actively seeking a fight when we go around these areas. We are just making sure that when an oncoming enemy is trying to invade us for resources, we know ahead of time to prepare our other guys. And that community could be like, oh, okay, because when we heard was like, you guys are kind of trespassing on our property and you're trying to start a fight on our land. These are things you need to fucking think about. You really do need to pay attention to every word that you say because someone is going to be someone who's in a defensive role, someone who is making a gut decision to work with you or not, has all the pressure. You don't have any pressure. You're just sitting there spouting out fucking words. You could be lying through your fucking teeth. Think about Fallout with raiders and bandits and shit. You could just be fucking saying whatever you want. So as soon as I come over to see you guys, I get fucking aced and you take my shit. So the defensive person has to be on guard. And you have to recognize that. And if you know things aren't going well, just be like, hey man, you know what? I get a feeling that this isn't really gelling with you. And I kind of just want to, I want to talk about that. And they may say, hey man, it's just too much of a risk. I can't really afford to do anything right now. Okay. All right. Well, keep this in consideration, And sometimes that's going to happen. You're not going to win them all. That's just how it is. We're still in a phase where we can be overt about these things. So when you go and you have your community leader now, before the post-apocalypse, when you're talking with people who are trying to get into, who you want to try to get into your community, sometimes they're just not going to fucking see it, man. They're going to still be drinking the Kool-Aid and be like, no, World War III is not going to happen, man. Bombs aren't going to fall. People aren't going to invade. All right. If you change your mind, here's where we are. Here's what we do. You've already given all the pertinence. You've given the best impression that you possibly can, and you've kept any information that they were talking about because maybe they're not interested. But they had mentioned as like, oh yeah, I got a brother who's post-service and he likes this kind of stuff and he lives down in over, yonder. Say, okay, maybe I couldn't convince you, but maybe your brother, on the other hand, maybe I'll go head south and go meet up with him. You know what I mean? So I think this is a good stopping point on it. Having a leader is essential. A communications leader, community leader, however you guys want to phrase it, is important to have before and after. You want a best representation of what your group has. You want someone who can condense down all that stuff to the most pertinent information possible. You want to have the best impression possible. So you're obviously not going to want to get someone who's a fucking alcoholic or someone who swears every goddamn sentence like me. Or maybe you do. You know, who knows? It's fucking end of civilization. Maybe people swear every fucking sentence. Who cares? The point is, if you don't trust this person in this role, don't fucking put them in that role. You know, it's a group decision. So if 3 out of 5 don't want that person, hey man, you got to find somebody else. If it's a split decision, rock, paper, scissors, flip a coin, give them a trial run, let them do 1 or 2. You know, some low risk areas where it's like, hey, you know, these guys don't really have anything, but if we could just know that they would alert us if someone's coming up to our fucking hideouts or something, like that would be great. Like we'll give them some fucking extra food, we'll give them a gun or 2, we'll give them something just as long as we know we can have our back secured. You know, something that's low risk. You know, because if it's post civilization, everything's fucking risk, and you know it is what it is. After you build a rapport with them and you gain those potential knowledge things, honesty. Be honest with each other. Be upfront. Those things are critical for communications in a corporate world, in a medical world, in the military world. And I can assure you, they are going to be as important in the fall of civilization post-collapse scenario. So, I might have more stuff to say about building a community and having roles and specifics in them. We'll kind of see how these videos do. I'm going to leave it here for now. In the near-ish future, we'll say about 3 or 4 months, we may have some product demos or some technical drafts to get you all on track of what we're going to be doing and hopefully potentially releasing with this company. So, thank you all very much. I hope you've enjoyed the Building a Community series, especially the pew-pew type. And I'll see you. Stay safe.